Cain now. He's the State Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia. Chris, welcome to the program.
Yeah, good evening, John. Good evening, listeners.
Now, just let me walk through some of these pay increases that you've been able to achieve for your members on projects. Barge welders, they've gone from $270,000 a year in 2007. They're now earning $400,000 a year in 2014. Cooks earning $300,000 a year. AP is saying that the industry can't afford it. How can you justify a cook earning $300,000 a year?
Well, firstly, John, we don't look after barge welders in construction. They're the construction unions in respect to their construction agreements, what they get. And I'm afraid, John, from APR, he's certainly, it's just not true in respect to what our cooks earn in our industry. We, at the Maritime Union of Australia, bargain hard, and as hard as we possibly can to get the outcomes that our members deserve on them projects. Now, we're a union that does long-term agreements, not greenfield agreements from project to project. We are not, there's been an independent report by BIS Shrapnel that's found wages of maritime workers basically on that project, what they're all screaming about, Gorgon for Chevron, was less than 1% of the cost of building Gorgon. And as I say, we do 4-year agreements, and it's just unfortunate that our agreement expired over 14 months ago, and the question you put to me was $300,000 for a cook. Well, if that's the case, I won't do no more negotiations. I'm so confident that I would tell the company tomorrow to be there, and we will sign off on $300,000 if that's what the cooks are getting.
Chris Cain, what APU is saying here is they would like an agreement on labour and labour costs that extends for the duration of construction of these major projects, so that the proponents, when they're making a final investment decision on these, that they have in mind some certainty around what labour is going to cost them. Are you quite happy to consider these life of project agreements so that the people sticking the money in, the people paying the wages of your members, so they've got some certainty over what they're up for?
And we're fine to do that. As I've said before, we've been waiting, and this is the problem that's not understood out there, John. We'll take Chevron, for example. We have asked, my National Secretary, Paddy Crumlin, has asked Chevron for a meeting some 4 to 5 years ago. And every year after, for a meeting to get together, sit down in a balanced way, so that they could, obviously, people could, look at how long the project's going to be, what is a fair outcome for the life of the project, let's deliver on time, give them all them commitments. And I've got to say, to be quite honest with you, Chevron hasn't even come to the table. We've never actually met anyone from Chevron. Let
me ask you a question, Chris Cain. You're the State Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia. Yes. If it's the case that major proponents, the major investors in big LNG projects in Western Australia, if they are taking their projects or taking their investment funds elsewhere because labour is too expensive here in Western Australia, how does that benefit the people you represent?
Well, obviously, we don't believe that's the case. We believe that the mismanagement on these projects is the main cause for the cost blowouts. And I can give you plenty of examples what they don't like hearing.
Well, just let me stop you there, Chris Cain, because I'm looking at figures here in front of me. Barge welders getting $400,000 a year, cooks earning $300,000 a year. They are part of the supply chain here, and your members are part of that supply chain as well. And the accusation that's being levelled is, but because the wages are too high, because they're so high, that it's going to be a disincentive for these major international investors to invest here. The capital is discretionary. They don't have to spend the money here. They can go to the Gulf of Mexico or off the west coast of Africa. There are lots of other places they can go to.
Well, I'm sure they can go down the Gulf of Mexico. Have you ever been there? Because I have. And I've got to tell you quite clearly, there's one person killed every day down there. There's no safety in the joint. There's lots of things wrong. We're in Australia here. We're in Australian waters. We're actually in the resource sector. you know, the people in Australia own these resources, and Chevron want to come in here and do it on the cheap. Now, you know, it's a $54 billion project. We're less than 1% maritime workers. I've said to you before, I will, you know, bite their arms off if they come back to us and say, we'll give you $300,000 for a cook. That's how confident I am that we're not getting that. Chris, it can't be more thingy than that.
It's good to talk with you today. Thank you for coming on the program. That's Chris Cain there. He's the State Secretary of the Maritime Union of Australia. It's 12 to 6 on Drive. The critics will be in next, very shortly. Monica Main and Ted Snell, they'll join me to give you something to think about what you might go and see, or something you might listen to, something you might read. Before that, Kate Miller-Heidke.